Okay, hi. We decided we decided that when we start on Monday, we'll kind of do a bit of a recap and revision if anyone has any questions, because you had shared that it's difficult to keep track of what all is happening. But we did a bit of a recap before ending also last time. So if you have any questions, we can start with those. And if there's anything left over, then I can just do a short recap.
I don't have questions. It was quite clear, I saw.
We can do a recap. That'll be nice.
All right. So last time I'd done a recap of all the stuff that we'd covered till Friday. And on Friday, what we'd done was basically he's sharing that upon understanding the nature of existence, how things are ordered, and how all these four orders of existence are defined within themselves, he also understood what defines and what really makes humans human. And through that, received the answer to what is a humane character and what would be a humane constitution or a national character, which was one of the questions he started out with. As a result of all of this knowledge, understanding existence, understanding Jeevan, and understanding humane conduct, he shares that the first thing that happened was that he found that he became confident in himself. And that was a major accomplishment that happened spontaneously. And in fact, he lists out 5 different things that happened as a spontaneous result of having understood. And actually, not all of them were as spontaneous. This first one was completely spontaneous, where he became confident because based on understanding, he could see the definiteness in everything. And therefore, he could see the definiteness in himself and everything else that he encountered, which allowed him to live with confidence. The other 4 things that followed emerged as a result of this confidence. The second was that he was able to respect the greatness in anyone. And the basis for that was because he understood values, he understood intrinsic value. And on the basis of this understanding, he was able to evaluate them when he encountered them. And because he was able to evaluate value whenever he encountered them, he was able to respect it. So this was the second achievement. The third was that he became extremely sociable. And the biggest aspect of that was that he became completely free of any sort of complaint against society in general or anyone in particular. He felt that all complaints within him had been washed away. And he found that he was willing and very motivated to interact and engage with people in general without having any, complaints or any sort of prejudice, biases against them. And because I think that also follows from being able to appreciate value, because then he's able to appreciate the value in anyone who may have a lot of shortcomings, but then everyone has certain value. And so if you're able to evaluate the value, you're able to, work with that. And that was the third achievement. The fourth was that he found that he was what he called pratibha and vyaktitva mein santulan, which was a balance between his talents and his personality. He found that he was able to deal with any situation because his talents were such that he was able to build certain talents that provided him the skills, acuity to deal with situations. And he also had a personality that was open. He found that his personality became one which was open and acceptable and motivated and in balance with being talented. Often one can have a situation where there's a lot of talent, but the personality is not such that you are able to work with people and work through situations. Or it can be the other way around. Your personality is very amenable, but you don't have the ability. So he found that there was a balance between these two. And he keeps checking this each day, whether there is still a balance, and he's finding that there is as yet not arrived a single situation in which he found himself incapable of dealing with it. Then another thing that happened was that he this allowed him to live in relationships. This sociability and pratibha vyaktitva combined also meant that he was able to live out his responsibility in his relationships. He understood relationships and their value, and therefore he was able to live out his relationships with some satisfaction. And this is what leads to the need for the fifth achievement also, which was prosperity through one's production. It's Vyavasaya mein Swavalamban means you are able to set up your occupation and livelihood in a way that is fulfilling and self-nourishing, self-empowered, because you've identified your needs, you have the skills, you have the personality, and you have the purpose for which you are joining, for which you are conducting your whatever occupation. He chose farming and medicine. And so he was able to, through this, he was able to set up a livelihood in which he was able to fulfill the needs, identify the needs of his family, and through his own production, was able to provide much more than was needed. And that, he says leads to a sense of prosperity, to have more than what you need. And he does share that, his family was always hardworking. He was born into a hardworking family, yet what he didn't have, and so he had resources also growing up, but what he didn't have ever before was an understanding of what prosperity means and feels like. And that was the change that happened after this knowledge, that he could sense prosperity because he understood and experienced what requirements really are, what physical requirements really are. And when you've understood them and you realize this is all I really need and this is all my family really needs, then when there is more, that feeling is what he's calling prosperity. So these 5 things he found that he achieved within himself. And once he achieved all of these, he felt like this is something that is worth sharing with other humans as well. And then he began to develop and write down this entire literature, which he's shared. He's broken down into the first part of that was Madhya Darshan Sahasitwavad, which is the mediative philosophy, coexistentialism. And that is the core philosophy, which he turned into a document. And then that document is divided into 4 parts. The first book is called A Holistic View of Humane Behavior, or Manav Vyavahar Darshan. Then the second one is A Holistic View of Humane Action, or Manav Karma Darshan. The third one is A Holistic View of Humane Practice, or Manav Abhyas Darshan. And the fourth one was A Holistic View of Humane Experience, or Manav Anubhav Darshan. So these are the first 4 books that he wrote, which constitute the core philosophy. Then he goes on to share how he wrote the next 3 books, which were an explanation of what coexistentialism is, which is when you start looking at coexistence, how do you think about various things? And that he's elaborated in the form of 3 books. The first of which was resolution-centric materialism. The second one was behavior-centric public discourse. And the third one, which we just finished discussing on Friday, was experience-centric spiritualism. And then he's described what each of these is, why he wrote each of these books. He gave a brief description. So this is where we had kind of finished. And he had just been explaining what the spirit is and what spiritualism really is. And he said it's just a choti si baat, just a little thing. So that's a recap of last Friday. If there are any thoughts or questions, we can discuss them now, or we can continue from there.
We can continue.
All right. Then
इसकी जरूरत के बारे में ये प्रकाश डालने अध्यात्म का मर्मस्थली है। व्यापक वस्तु ही होता है, उसके बाद एक एक वस्तु का अनुभव होता है। ये इस तथ्य को स्पष्ट करने के लिए कोशिश की है। ये अनुभव
So this is why we had paused, that the first thing anyone ever experiences or anyone ever sees, the first thing is always this thing which he's calling omnipresent or space. And then we see the unit, then we see the object. It's first space and then object. And that is the essence of spirituality. This object, this entity called omnipresent or space, that is what spiritualism is all about, and that is what I've tried to talk about in this book.
भावात्मक अध्यात्मवाद का मर्मस्थली है। इसकी जरूरत के बारे में यह प्रकाश डालने की कोशिश की है। इसमें भ्रमित होने के बाद आदमी, मानव जाति अपने को पहचान नहीं सकता।
So this is what I have tried to shed light on in spiritual experience-centric spiritualism, because being deluded about this entity, if one is deluded about this entity, then we are unable to understand ourselves.
अस्तित्व को समझे बिना अस्तित्व का ही एक पुर्जा के रूप में जो है मानव जाति, वो अपने को कैसे समझेगा? ये तो होना ही नहीं।
Without having understood existence, how can humankind understand oneself, which is but a part, which is but one one purja, a part, part of this existence. We are one cog in this entire system.
इसीलिए अस्तित्व को समझना बहुत जरूरी है। वो ये व्यापक वस्तु में ही संपूर्ण एक एक वस्तु है, ये स्वयं सह अस्तित्व का गवाही हो गई।
That is why it's very important to understand existence, which is all entities, these unitary entities are saturated within this omnipresent entity, and that is itself the testimony of coexistence.
तो अस्तित्व सह अस्तित्व को हम यदि भुलावा देते हैं, सिवाय संकट की और कुछ होता नहीं। ये निकल गया। इससे मूल्यांकित हुआ विगत का। अभी तक जितने भी हम द्रोह विद्रोह शोषण युद्ध किए हैं, ये सब का सब सह अस्तित्ववादी विरोधी है। सह अस्तित्व के विरोध में ही हम सब किया है। सब करने के बाद हम
So when we don't understand existence in the form of coexistence, that is the cause of all our crises. And that is a critique of all of our history, of all our aggressions, our defenses, our exploitations, and all our wars. That all of this is contradictory to coexistence.
सहअस्तित्व के विरोध में ही हम सब किया है। सब करने के बाद हम कैसे पाने के लिए कोशिश करें, पाने के लिए इच्छा करें, सही चीज को पाने का कोई आसरा ही नहीं रह गया। इसीलिए हमको गलत ही घटनाएं सामने आता रहा। हम जैसा जब कभी भी रोते भी रहे, कभी हंसते रहे, जैसा किसी समुदाय परिवार व्यक्ति।
So all that we've done in this course of history was all of this was in contradiction to coexistence. So how could we have expected and so how could we have achieved anything? We hoped to achieve things, but how could we have attained anything when all our efforts were in contradiction to coexistence?
कभी हंसते रहे, जैसा जब कभी भी रोते भी रहे, कभी हंसते रहे। जैसा कि
And as a result of this, we faced what we faced, and then we cried, and then we also laughed. But we haven't, basically, which means that we haven't really reached anywhere. Because all that we did was without having understood existence, which is as coexisting.
किसी समुदाय, परिवार, व्यक्ति दूसरे किसी को मार डालता है, उनका परिवार वालों ने बड़ी खुश होते हैं, ये हमारा शत्रु को नाश कर दिया, बहुत खुश है। देश भी ऐसे ही सोचता है, सरकार भी ऐसे ही सोचता है। अब क्या किया जाए?
So, for instance, when there is some sort of conflict between two groups, and a member of one family then say goes and kills off the member of the other side, then that person who is applauded and is celebrated because they have defeated, people say, oh, he's defeated our enemy, and he's celebrated by his own family members, by his own nation, by his own government. And that has been the situation up till now.
ऐसे ही धर्मगति भी ऐसे ही मानता है, विधर्मी नाश हो जाए तो हम खुश हो जाएं, ऐसा वो भी सोचते हैं। अब इस ढंग से किसके शरण में जाएं भाई? धर्मगति के पास जाओ तो ऐसा सोचते हैं, और राजगद्दी की बात जाओ तो ऐसा सोचते हैं। शिक्षा गद्दी में कोई दिशा ना हो और प्रयोजन समझ में नहीं आता हो, ये जो कुछ भी मिलता हो भ्रमे भ्रम मिलता हो, तीनवाद के रूप में आपको पहले से बता दिया।
And even the religious institutions promote this, that if we defeat someone who is say the sinner, or someone who is against our religion, then that is considered to be a success. So then when you go to the religious institutions, you receive a similar kind of encouragement. If you go to the political institutions, you receive a similar encouragement. And when you go to the educational institutions, then over there are no answers, and there is only a lot of confusion and delusion and no direction. So in such a situation, Sharan kahan mile? Sharan is, where do you find shelter, or where do you find real guidance? Where do we go? What do we do?
अब उसके बाद हम कहाँ ठोर पावे, कहाँ क्या करें, ये परेशानी थी, जिसको हमारा पहले की जो ये सब स्थितियां जागृति की पहले हमारा जो परेशानी थी, वो सब इसी प्रकार मुझ में भी था। आप लोगों के साथ भी वैसा ही है। आप लोग भी उसी खेत की ढेले हैं जो मानव परंपरा की एक शरीर है। शरीर का रचना गर्भाशय में होता है, उसके मूल में जो प्रक्रियाएं होते हैं वो सब हम समझ गए हैं।
So this is the problem faced by the human tradition, and even I had the same problems. I was facing the same problems before samadhi, before awakening, and all of you are also suffering the same from the same issue, because even you were born into the same human tradition with the human body, and were raised within this culture.
और उसके बाद यदि कोई चीज है, जीवन है, जीवन शरीर को जीवंत बनाए रखा है, और जीवंतता है जीवन, वो सब आप हम समझ गए हैं। और उसके बाद यदि कोई चीज है, जीवन है, जीवन शरीर को जीवंत बनाए रखा है, और जीवंतता पूर्वक ही हम कष्ट सुख को भोगते हैं, ये सोचते हैं और एक दूसरे से बात करते हैं। ये बात हमको समझ में आ गई।
Even all of you were also born into this human tradition. You were born with a biological body. This all of us have already understood. And beyond this, what exists is the Jeevan, and it is this Jeevan, as we have discussed, that keeps the body alive. And it is because of this Jeevan that we are able to experience all our pains and all our happinesses, pains and all our pleasures and happiness. And what was the last bit?
ये सोचते हैं और एक दूसरे से बात करते हैं, ये बात हमको
is-
समझ में आ गई।
It is this Jeevan because of which it is the Jeevan which is thinking, and it is this Jeevan which is interacting with other people, and we are interacting with each other.
इस विधि से हम बहुत अच्छी ढंग से इस तथ्य को स्वीकारने के लिए तैयार हुए कि हम इसको पूरे के पूरे चीज को मानव के पास पहुंचाना ही चाहिए। उसके बाद उसको शास्त्र के रूप में हम पा गए। शास्त्र के रूप में पाया तो क्या पाए, माने शास्त्र के रूप में पाने का मतलब जीने की कला के रूप में।
So in this way, I reached this point where I felt like this is worth sharing with humankind, and I elaborated this in the form of tradition, in the form of a literature, and after these three vags that were just mentioned, these three isms, materialisms, public discourse, and spiritualism, I decided to write about the Shastra. The Shastras are basically, in fact, he says, Shastra means jeene ki kala, or the way to live with this view. So the Shastras are the arts of, you could say, this philosophy. So there's the core philosophy, the Char Darshan, then there are the three Vads, which are essentially the theoretical perspectives on the basis of this darshan. And then there's the arts, the art form of this philosophy, the Shastra.
तो अभी जो कुछ भी अर्थशास्त्र है वो लाभोन्मादी अर्थशास्त्र, उससे तो आदमी सुखी हो नहीं सकते, सब तो सुखी हो ही नहीं सकता।
So the existing economics is a profit-obsessed economics, and that can be no basis for everyone to be happy. Not everyone can certainly not be achieve happiness on the basis of such an economic.
इस आधार पर यदि सुखी होने की रास्ता है, सुखी होने का रास्ता है, वो केवल आवर्तनशील अर्थशास्त्र विधि से है, अर्थनीति से है, अर्थकार्य से है, इसी विधि से है। इसको हम स्पष्ट करने की कोशिश की।
Therefore, if there is any basis for happiness, it will have to be through a cyclical economics, avartanshil arthashastra, through a cyclical arthniti or economic policy, and basically cyclical economic method. So that was my next book, next part of the literature.
वह व्यवस्था के अंगभूत हो सकता है, ये स्वाभाविक है। दूसरा प्रबंध ये लिखा है कि व्यवहारवादी समाजशास्त्र। मनुष्य जो है व्यवहार पूर्वक ही संतुष्टि पाता है, मनुष्य के साथ ही व्यवहार करता है, व्यवहार न्यायपूर्वक होता है। इस मुद्दे को इस ढंग से स्पष्ट करने की कोशिश।
So such a cyclical economics is the only kind of economic policy or economic system that can actually fit into the existential system. Then the next document that I prepared was Vyavaharvadi Samaj Shastra. So behavioral sociology, you could say. Vyavaharvadi is something which is moving towards Vyavahar, and Samaj Shastra is a sociology, so a social system, a Shastra or an art of existing in society. And maybe sociology is not the best word for it, but that is how Samaj Shastra is generally translated. So a Vyavaharvadi Samaj Shastra was the next document. It is because Manushya Vyavahar Purvak hi santushti pata. It is only through behavior, that is with engagement with other humans, that a human finds contentment. It is only humans interact, behave only with other humans And this behavior must be just in order for it to be satisfying and for it to lead to any contentment.
व्यवहारवादी समाजशास्त्र, उसका मूल ध्रुव बिंदु है मानवतापूर्ण आचरण। फलस्वरूप राष्ट्रीय आचार संहिता के रूप में हम मानवीय आचरण को स्वीकार सकते हैं। इसको संविधानों में, सभी देश की संविधानों में इसको पहचाना जा सकता है। इससे संसार में समुदाय के बीच में जो बने युद्ध की खौफ बनी रहती है, वो सब इससे निवारण हो सकता है।
So the anchoring focus of this behavioral sociology for behavior or towards behavior is humane conduct or a conduct full of humaneness. And can I see that?
युद्ध के प्रयास
Okay. Okay. So the anchoring point for Vyavaharvadi Samajshastra or a behavioral sociology is humane conduct. And on the basis of humane conduct or in the form of a humane conduct, we can also understand what a national character or a national constitution, a national code of conduct could be, which can be adopted by all the nations of this planet because it is innately humane and universal. So such a humane conduct can be accepted by the citizens of all the nations on this planet as a constitution to follow, to live up to live by.
जब तक है तब तक ये से निवारण बने युद्ध की खौफ बनी रहती है, वो सब इससे निवारण हो सकता है। युद्ध के प्रयास जब तक है तब तक ये धरती को तंग किए बिना आदमी जी नहीं सकेगा, और ज्यादा तंग करने के लिए ज्यादा मने विज्ञान बुद्धि को प्रयोग करना पड़ता है।
So through such a constitution of humane conduct, this issue of various groups warring with each other on this planet can also be resolved. And until we resolve this issue of our constant warring with each other, we cannot stop troubling the planet. And the more we want to war, the greater our necessity for war, the greater will our effects on the planet will be. The more will we end up troubling the planet. And the more we will keep employing our science and our technology, our technological brains for that purpose.
इससे विज्ञान बुद्धि का भी मूल्यांकन हो जाता है। युद्ध को संरक्षण करने के लिए विज्ञान शुरुआत हुई। आज भी युद्ध को संरक्षण देने के लिए ही विज्ञानी, ज्यादा से ज्यादा विज्ञानी उसी में ज्यादा तनख्वाह पाते हैं, पैसा पाते हैं, अपने को धनी मानते हैं। करना क्या है? धरती को बर्बाद करना है। बात इतनी।
So this also gives us an overview, an evaluation of the scientific mentality. It was to secure war and military power, essentially, that science emerged. And even today, a majority of scientists are paid by the war industry. And what that is where they receive their salary from the war industry. And at the end of the day, what happens is that we trouble the earth, we destroy the earth. That is the crux of it.
छोटी सी बात, इस छोटी सी बात से मुक्ति पाना है, हमको समझदार होना ही है, दूसरा कोई रास्ता नहीं है। ना पहले से ही अपने पा चुके ना समझी से साला गलतियां होते हैं, और माने समझदारी से सही ही होती है। हम मानव सही
So, so this is the crux of it. This little thing, as we keep saying, choti si baat. I suppose this little summary, and as we've already discussed before, it is because of our lack of understanding, because of our ignorance, that we have caused all our problems. And all we must do to live happily is to understand. And there is no other option. There is no other way out of it.
में ये कहें, गलती में अनेक कहें, खत्म हो गया बात। छोटी सी निष्कर्ष ऐसा बनता है।
We must attain liberation from this delusion. We must attain liberation from our ignorance. And for that, we must attain knowledge. We must understand. As we've already discussed, we are united in correctness and we are varied only in our mistakes.
इस विधि से हम जब इसको सबको समीक्षित करते हैं, पता लगता है हम कितने पानी में खड़े हैं, कैसे पानी में खड़े हैं। ये दोनों नापने में आता है। इस नापदंड में आते हैं तो तब पता लगता है हम किस तरीके की आदमी हैं। उसका मूल्यांकन आगे करेंगे।
So when we look at the situation in this way, that is when we realize just how much, what would be an appropriate idiom, kitne pani mein hum khade hain, and how bad the situation is, how much water we're in, how deep the waters are. Basically, if the ship is sinking, then how far the water is reached. When we take an overview of the situation in this way, that is when we realize how deep the water already is, or how high the water has already risen. And in these terms, when we look at ourselves, we can evaluate ourselves in terms of just what kind of a person we are, how good of a person we are. And
लगता है हम किस तरीके की आदमी हैं, उसका मूल्यांकन आगे करेंगे।
And we will also discuss this evaluation further ahead.
तीसरा शास्त्र ये लिखा है कि मानव संचेतनावादी मनोविज्ञान। इस मनोविज्ञान शास्त्र में ये बताना चाहा है, जीवन संचेतना का आधार है, शरीर संचेतना को मानव परंपरा में व्यक्त करने का माध्यम है।
So the third shastra or art form that I've written is Manav Sanchetnavadi Manovigyan, or psychology of humane consciousness. And in this, what I have elaborated is that the Jeevan is the basis for consciousness, and the body is its medium of expression.
संचेतना को मानव परंपरा में व्यक्त करने का माध्यम है।
So the body is the medium for its expression and its expression of this consciousness within the human tradition.
ये बात को सुदृढ़ रूप में समझाने की कोशिश की है। उसको आप लोग जांचेंगे। यदि आप लोगों को समझ में आ गया, हमारा लिखना सार्थक हो गया। यदि समझ में नहीं आया तो कोई सार्थक नहीं हुआ।
This is what I have tried to explain in a very clear way within this book. And if you're able to understand this explanation, that means my writing it was meaningful and successful. And if you're unable to understand it, that means it was not meaningful and that I failed.
ठीक, ये देख लीजिएगा। इस ढंग से दर्शन, विचार, शास्त्र, इन तीनों चीजों को दिया। शास्त्र
Okay, so you can check all of these out in this way, or by yourselves. And this way, so I wrote the Darshan, Vad, and Shastra, the philosophy, the theory, and the art. I think art is a rough translation I'm using for Shastra. I'll have to look up how another way in which we can translate Shastra.
शास्त्रों का मूल आशय यही है, मानव व्यवस्था में जीना है। जीने के लिए कौन सी ऐसे तरीका है, माने विधि क्या है, नीति क्या है, पद्धति क्या है, प्रणाली क्या है, इन चारों बातों को स्पष्ट किया है।
So the basic essence, essence of Shastra or these 3 books of the art form of living is that humans have to live in an order, and I have tried to explain what the policy of this living would be like, what would be the methodology, what would be the process. All of this I have described within the Shastra. The policy, the methods, and the process of living in the coexistential order.
इसके बाद इसको क्रियान्वयन करने के लिए योजनाएं आई। योजनाएं 3 स्वरूप में आई।
And then, after having finished writing these, then came the programs for living these out. For इनका क्रियान्वयन करना, for basically to execute these policies and these methods, I then came up with the programs through which to execute them.
पहला योजना है जीवन विद्या योजना। इसका मूल स्वरूप ये थी, दो आदर्श युग में भी कहीं ना कहीं आत्मा परमात्मा ऐसे चीजों को समझाने के लिए बहुत कोशिश की।
So I came up with 3 programs. Of these, the first program was the Jeevan Vidya program, or the Jeevan Education program, to actually translate it for you. And the background for this is that even traditionally, even before this, we have had several programs to spread the word over, to educate people on the existence of God and of religion, of God and Atma, soul, and such things. We have had programs for the education on these.
ऐसे चीजों को समझाने के लिए बहुत कोशिश की। लोह लुहान हो गए, समझा नहीं पाए, ना समझ पाए। अब क्या करें? लोह लुहान ही हाथ लगी। अब क्या किया जाए?
So there have been several attempts to explain God and the soul, and people have log luhan ho gaye. I think it comes from lahu, which is people have bled themselves dry in this attempt to explain what God and the soul is, and yet they were unable to explain, and they were unable to even understand it for themselves. What was actually achieved was that basically that people bled themselves dry in this attempt and failed.
तब इसका उत्तर होना चाहिए। अनुभवात्मक अध्यात्मवाद लिखा ही था, उसके आधार पर हम मानव संचेतनावादी मनोविज्ञान लिखा। उसमें मानव संचेतना संज्ञानशीलता संवेदनशीलता के रूप में कार्य करता हुआ प्रमाणित किया है। उसका प्रमाण मैं स्वयं पहला आदमी हूं।
So there must be an answer to this being the question of God and the soul. Now, I had already written Adhyatmavad or spiritualism, the experience-centric spiritualism. And on the basis of that, I wrote the book on psychology. And in that, I have explained how human consciousness is actually a composite of Samvedanshilta and Sangyanshilta. Samvedanshilta is sensitivity, and Sangyanshilta is essentially wisdom. So Sangyan is with Gyan. So he's saying that in the text on psychology, I have explained how human consciousness is a composite of sensitivity and wisdom.
कार्य करता हूँ
And oh yes, and I am the first evidence of this humane consciousness.
उसमें मानव संचेतना संज्ञानशीलता संवेदनशीलता के रूप में कार्य करता हुआ प्रमाणित किया है। उसका प्रमाण मैं स्वयं पहला आदमी हूँ, उसके बाद आप सब हो सकते हो चाहे तो।
So I am the first evidence of this, and all of you could be the next further evidences of this composite expression, if you wish.
नहीं चाहे तो खुशहाली मना सकते हो, कोई विपदा नहीं है। इस विधि से
And if you don't wish, then you can continue your own celebration of life. There is no problem on my part.
से मानव संचेतना का ध्रुवीकरण मिली, एक ध्रुव। दूसरा ध्रुव व्यवहार में प्रमाणित होना।
In this way, I found the anchoring point for human consciousness. That was the first anchor. And on the other, there is, what was it? Manav Parampara.
ध्रुव व्यवहार में प्रमाणित होना।
Evidencing in behavior. So the first is what is human consciousness, and the second is what is its evidence in behavior.
व्यवहार में प्रमाणित होने का मुद्दा बहुत आसानी से मिल गई। व्यवहार में हम समाधान, समृद्धि, अभय, सहअस्तित्व को प्रमाणित करना है, ठीक है।
And this, how to evidence oneself in one's behavior, also I found was quite simple. And that is that we want to evidence samadhan, samriddhi, abhay, sahastitva. We want to evidence resolution, prosperity, security or fearlessness, and coexistence in our behavior.
समृद्धि, अभय, सहअस्तित्व को प्रमाणित करना है, ठीक है। इसके लिए न्याय माने नियम, न्याय माने व्यवस्था, समाधान और सत्य को प्रमाणित करना है। ये प्रमाणित करने की विधि के लिए ये पूरा वाङ्मय को आदमी के समूह, मानव जाति के समूह, मेधावियों के समूह, सर्व मानव के समूह प्रस्तुत किया।
So what we must evidence in our behavior is resolution, prosperity, security, and coexistence. And in order to evidence these in our behavior, we must evidence essentially at the root of it is niyam, law, justice, order, and truth. So he says niyam, nyay, then he says vyavasthaya samadhan. Because order, you could say synonymous. These two words are essentially synonymous. Order is equal to system, is equal to resolution. Because resolution is basically us having understood order. When we understand order, we have resolution in our mind. So what we are evidencing in our behavior is this resolution. But we are also evidencing our understanding of niyam, the laws of nature, justice, order, and then finally the ultimate capital T, truth. And
वाङ्मय को आदमी के समूह, मानव जाति के।
And how to do all of this is what I have elaborated within my literature, and then I have presented this amidst humankind, amongst intellectuals, amongst all of you.
विधि के लिए ये पूरा वाङ्मय को आदमी के समूह, मानव जाति के समूह, मेधावियों के समूह, सर्व मानव के समूह प्रस्तुत किया।
All
इस ढंग से ये 3 योजना में से एक योजना जीवन को समझाने के पक्ष में है।
So in this way, of the 3 programs, this one program, that is the education of Jeevan Vidya, is in terms of explaining what the Jeevan is.
क्योंकि आदिकाल से इसमें इसी मुद्दे पर ज्यादा पराभव हुई, पहले उसी को आजमा लें। यदि अपन समझा पाते हैं, आगे की 2 बात समझ में आएगा ही, उसमें ज्यादा कठिनाई नहीं है।
Because since time immemorial, this is the one major issue on which there has been a lot of, now I think parabhav is destruction or discord, something like that. And therefore, this is the major point of understanding. The other 2 are much easier. And once this is understood, those 2 will become much easier to understand and accept. So this was the understanding of the Jeevan is the first program.
कठिनाई जो कुछ भी है, स्वयं के प्रति अनजानता है, स्वयं के प्रति अनभिज्ञता है, यही अपने को ज्यादा से ज्यादा परेशान किया है। उसको दूर करने के लिए ये जीवन विद्या को बताने की कोशिश की। अनभिज्ञता है, उसमें ज्यादा कठिनाई नहीं है। कठिनाई जो कुछ भी है, स्वयं के प्रति अनजानता है, स्वयं के प्रति अनभिज्ञता है, यही अपने को ज्यादा से ज्यादा परेशान किया है।
So the other 2 points, which actually, so there are 3 points of understanding: understanding the Jeevan, understanding existence, and understanding humane conduct. Of these 3, he's saying, actually it is only understanding the Jeevan which is a major, that which has been a major difficulty for us. Understanding oneself, swayam ke prati anjana, and ignorance regarding oneself and unawareness of what oneself is has been our major difficulty.
उसको दूर करने के लिए ये जीवन विद्या को बताने की कोशिश की।
And
इसका जो
to rid us of that ignorance and unawareness, I have tried to explain this or execute this Jeevan education program.
माने केंद्र बिंदु हैं, वो जीवन हर मनुष्य में समान है। बच्चे, बूढ़े, शिशु, वृद्ध सब में समान रूप में विद्यमान है। समानता का आधार जीवन है, ना कि शरीर। शरीर कभी भी
So the central point within this is that all Jeevans are equal. Whether it is the Jeevan of a child, of an old man, of I think said male, female. Basically, the Jeevan is what is equal. The basis for equality is lies within the Jeevan, not in the body.
हर जीवन है, ना कि शरीर। शरीर कभी भी ये दो शरीर एक समान होते ही नहीं। ठीक हो गया? शरीर की विविधता रहेगी, जीवन की समानता रहेगी।
Bodies can never be, that is, 2 bodies can never be the same. They can never be equal. There will always be a variety within bodies, and there will always be an equality in Jeevan.
जीवन समान है, जीवन शक्तियां और बल समान है, और जीवन का लक्ष्य समान है। इन 4 मुद्दे को मैं पा गया।
So the Jeevan is equal, and the Jeevan's powers and forces are equal, and the Jeevan's goal are equal, is the same. I attained these 4 points.
जीवन अपने में जागृत होना चाहता है, जागृति इसका लक्ष्य है। हर व्यक्ति जागृत होना चाहता है, हर व्यक्ति समाधानित होना चाहता है, हर व्यक्ति न्याय चाहता है। ये
The Jeevan wants to achieve awakening. Every person wishes to achieve awakening. Every Jeevan wishes to achieve awakening. Every person wants resolution. Every Jeevan wants justice.
हर व्यक्ति समाधान ही तो ना चाहता है, हर व्यक्ति न्याय चाहता है। ये तीनों जीवन का चाहत है।
So awakening, resolution, and justice is a desire for all Jeevan. All three of these are an equal desire, are a shared desire among all the Jeevan.
आप सब इस बात को जांच सकते हैं, आपका कोई अंगावयव ऐसा नहीं है जिसके साथ जो अंगावयव न्याय को प्रतीक्षा करता हो। आप सब जांचिए, आप ये पाएंगे कोई अंगावयव आप नहीं पाएंगे जिसमें न्याय का प्रतीक्षा हो।
This is something you can all test out for yourselves. That you can check within your bodies. There is not a single body part that is awaiting justice. You can all check this within yourselves right now. That not a single body part is awaiting justice.
आप नहीं पाएंगे जिसमें न्याय का प्रतीक्षा हो, न्याय को चाहता हो, ऐसा कोई जगह आपको मिलेगा नहीं। जबकि आप स्वयं चाहते हो न्याय। ठीक है, अब ये अंगावयव समाधान को चाहता हो, ऐसा भी कोई अंगावयव नहीं, जबकि आप स्वयं समाधान चाहते हैं। और उसी प्रकार सत्य को कोई अंगावयव चाहता नहीं, चाहता है जीवन। तो इस आधार पर
So you can all check within yourselves that no body part is awaiting justice. No body part desires justice, but you desire justice. Similarly, no body part is awaiting resolution, but you desire resolution. And no body part desires the truth, but you desire the truth.
चाहता है जीवन। तो इस आधार पर ये निष्कर्ष निकला, न्याय धर्म सत्य को समझा दिया जाए। सीधा सीधा बात, जीवन को चाहिए ये। ठीक है, जीवन का स्वरूप को समझा जाए, जीवन क्रियाओं को
So in this way, I came to the conclusion that let's explain justice, resolution, or dharma, and the truth. Now, resolution, dharma, order, system, these are all used synonymously. So the set is justice, order, and truth. So if the Jeevan is seeking justice, order, and truth, let's explain it. Let's explain it to them.
ठीक है, जीवन का स्वरूप को समझा जाए, जीवन क्रियाओं को समझा जाए, जीवन तृप्त होने के लिए न्याय धर्म सत्य चाहिए, इसको समझाया जाए।
So let's explain the nature of the Jeevan. Let's explain the processes or the activities of the Jeevan. And let's explain the justice, order, and truth that the Jeevan needs in order to feel fulfilled. Let's explain all of these.
ये छोटा सा काम इसमें से निकला है। उसके आधार पर जीवन विद्या योजना प्रस्तुत किया, उसको कार्य योजना में परिणत किया। दो दिग्गज विज्ञान के
So this small project came out of this philosophy, and based on that, I turned it into the Jeevan Vidya, Jeevan education program, and have begun executing it.
उसको कार्य योजना में परिणत किया। दो दिग्गज विज्ञान में दिग्गज कहलाने वाले विद्वान मूर्ख या और किसी भी मुद्दे पर विद्वान मूर्ख सभी इसको सुने हैं। उनके सुनने के आधार पर उनका यही निकला है अभी तक। इसको हम पूरा समझ सकते हैं। कुछ लोग समझ गए, वो दूसरों को समझाने में लग गए, वो भी सफल हो गए समझाकर। तब हम विश्वास किया हमने जो समझाया है सार्थक।
So even the Vidwan, even the scholars of science, and even the people within high who have understood science and who've understood, who have great expertise in science and in other fields, have heard this, and they have shared that they understand it, that they can understand it, and they have understood it. And then they have also begun to explain it, to share this understanding and explain it with others. And when these others have also understood, that's when I felt that my explaining was meaningful, that it was successful.
तब हम विश्वास किया हमने जो समझाया है सार्थक। कल आप भी यही करोगे। आप समझने का प्रमाण आप किसी को समझाओगे, वो जब दूसरे को समझा लिया तब आप समझाना सार्थक हुआ, प्रमाणित हुआ।
So that is when I felt that my explaining, felt confident that my having explained was meaningful. And tomorrow you will do the same. When you understand, you will be, the evidence of understanding will be that you will explain it to others. And when those others are able to explain it to a third person, that will be the evidence of your having understood.
जब तक आप समझाया हुआ, जब वो दूसरे को समझा नहीं पाता है, तब तक आप समझाने का प्रमाण कहाँ है? ठीक है, इस ढंग से मैं आश्वस्त हुआ, यह प्रामाणिक वस्तु है, इसको समझाया जा सकता है, इसलिए सब समझ सकते हैं।
So until what you have until the person you have explained something to is able to explain to a third person, you have no evidence that your explanation was actually successful. So in this way, I became confident that this is something that can be explained, that this has been explained and understood.
प्रामाणिक वस्तु है, इसको समझाया जा सकता है, इसलिए सब समझ सकते हैं। उसके बाद ये
that this is something that can be authenticated, that can be evidenced, it can be explained, that everyone can understand it.
शुरू किया वांग्मय को लोगों को छपवा करके देने के लिए और जीवन विद्या योजना को सार्थक बनाने के लिए शुरुआत की।
That is when I started to have this literature published and shared, and when I started this Jeevan education program and sharing with the wider public.
तो दूसरा योजना यह है कि शिक्षा का मानवीकरण। सबको आवश्यकता है ही है समझदार होना, इसलिए समझदारी की सारा वस्तुओं को शिक्षा में समावेश किया जाए। उसके लिए
Now the second program is a humanization of education, because everyone needs to understand. This is a need for everyone to understand. So it's a universal need, and therefore all the content of it, understanding, all the content that needs to be understood must be made available in the form of an education system.
समझदारी की सारा वस्तुओं को शिक्षा में समावेश किया जाए। उसके लिए सिलेबस बनाया गया, किसी स्कूल में प्रयोग भी किया गया। वो स्कूल वहाँ है गोविंदपुर में, बिजनौर जिले में है। उसमें ये पता लगा कि एक बहुत अच्छी अनुभव हुआ 4-5 वर्ष में कि पहले सारा शिक्षा।
So this entire content, which is for understanding, was included within the school system. For that, a syllabus was created. It was made part of the curriculum of a particular school in Govindpur in Bijnor. And over there, the experience was.
शिक्षा विधि जी को नारा लगाते रहे, वातावरण का प्रभाव मैंने विद्यार्थियों पर पड़ता है। तो वहाँ हम लोगों ने यह अनुभव किया, विद्यार्थियों का प्रभाव वातावरण पर पड़ता है, उल्टा देखा गया।
So the experience was that, as educationists have always kind of said that the environment influences the students, what we found was that the students influence their environment. This is something that we found.
उसको अब विशाल रूप में देखने की अरमान है, उसके लिए प्रयत्न जारी है। और इसके बाद तीसरा योजना है हमारे पास।
Now, there is the attempts to scale this up and to see it on a larger scale are still ongoing, and we are still anticipating the results to that. And then there is the third program.
परिवार मूलक स्वराज्य व्यवस्था, शक्ति केंद्रित शासन के स्थान पर समाधान केंद्रित व्यवस्था।
The third program is a family-rooted Parivar Mulak Swarajya Vyavastha, a family-rooted self-governing order. And this is an alternate to Shakti Kendra, a power-centric Shakti Kendrit Shasan, a power-centric rule, authority, essentially authoritarianism. So instead of authoritarianism or power-centric rule, we must have a Parivar Samadhan Kendrit Parivar Vyavastha. So a resolution-centric family order. This is the proposal. Instead of a power-centric rule, there must be a resolution-centric family order.
कुल मिलाकर के क्या है? परिवार मूलक स्वराज्य व्यवस्था का क्या मतलब है? शक्ति केंद्रित शासन के स्थान पर समाधान मूलक व्यवहार व्यवस्था। इस व्यवस्था को अध्ययन कराने की व्यवस्था मैंने काम किया है इस ढंग से।
So altogether, what is this family-centric, family-rooted self-governing order? It is simply an alternate from this power-centric authority and rule to a system which is rooted in resolution-based behavior. So this is a system of governance which is rooted in all, I'm just giving an explanation right now, rooted in a populace which has resolution, which has understanding, and so they are rooted in resolution, and on the basis of this, they are engaging in behavior. And this behavior takes the form of a family like structure. So therefore, it is called a Parivar Mulak Swarajya Vyavastha, a family-rooted self-governing order, which is essentially a Samadhan Mulak Vyavahar Vyavastha. Another way of saying it is that it is a resolution-rooted behavioral order. And here behavior is used in terms of humane behavior and just behavior.
पूरा दर्शन, विचार, शास्त्र और योजनाएं इससे निष्पन्न हुई। अध्ययन कराने की व्यवस्था मैंने काम किया है इस ढंग से। पूरा दर्शन, विचार, शास्त्र और योजनाएं इससे निष्पन्न हुई।
So I have attempted to explain and guide the study of these, and in this way, the philosophy, the theory, the art, and the programs emerged from my core understanding.
अब इसको क्रियान्वयन करने के कार्यक्रम में है। अभी आपका सम्मुख ये जीवन विद्या क्या चीज है, जीवन क्या है, जीवन का स्वरूप क्या है, जीवन क्या माने भौतिक वस्तु है, अभौतिक वस्तु है, अभौतिक है तो क्या चीज है।
Now I'm involved in executing these programs. And now, amidst you, I will present what this entity called Jeevan is, what is its nature, what are its activities, whether it is material or immaterial.
ये सभी प्रश्न इसके ऊपर आते हैं, उसका उत्तर इस विधि से आता है।
Or such questions keep emerging regarding the Jeevan, and I will attempt to present the answers to such questions. Okay, it's the time. Oh, it's 7:30. Past 7:30. So that was the end of this part 2. Next, I suppose we can start that tomorrow. when we begin Jeevan Vidya, the education of the Jeevan. Any questions? Manjuji?
Yeah. Could you hear my voice?
Yeah.
You saying something?
No, I'm just waiting. I'm just asking if you have any questions from what we covered today
Lots of questions.
or thoughts.
I'll have to go over it a little bit on my own. The books and a lot of technical information there is, no? But
Yeah.
yeah, the summary I got that the importance of, all that, the importance of Jeevan Vidya ka study. That's a book the main book. But there's a lot of technical information which I have to understand.
Yeah.
Are those books also in English or Hindi? Or?
So some have been translated, like this entire workshop has been translated. The book that was a transcription of this workshop is also available in Hindi. Its English translation is also available. Then, of course, all the books that he mentioned, the four philosophies, the three theories, and the three shastra, some of them have also been translated to English. So, the first one is the first to be translated.
Because when he's saying so many things, the question is how is coming up, but that will take, it cannot be talked about it at this point. Right now, I'm at least understanding the whole thing, but there's so much how is coming. Na? I mean, for all the many suggestions, you need an answer as to how.
Right. You can think of this portion as a sort of outlining of the syllabus. Like he's just outlining what all there is in order to understand Madhya Darshan. But then he also keeps summarizing, this is the crux of this entire book, or this is the, essence of what we are trying to say. So right now, this is like, reading out the syllabus.
Yeah. I know last time also you explained that. And this, in the last chapter also, there was a lot of this.
Yeah. I mean, Friday was when he started talking about this entire syllabus.
Yes.
So now, tomorrow when we start, he will start an explanation of what the Jeevan is, what it is like, what are its processes.
Okay.
Now we get into the thick of it.
That's why I'm waiting to hear more, then I'll know. I think I will get many answers as we go on.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Any thoughts? Yeah.
So why towards the end he mentioned the organization of society on the basis of authoritarian policy, and that the counter proposal is an organization on the basis of family. Now, I joined this right in the middle, I think, or at least towards the end of this lecture. Does he have a special understanding in mind when he says family? Why is it that the counter to an authoritarian-based organization is a family-based organization? So is there some special understanding of family that is in mind? That's one question. The second question is why doesn't this idea lead to a criticism of a country, of a nation? Because earlier he seemed to be suggesting that there can be some sort of constitution which is valid, natural, for all countries, in fact.
Right.
So, does he have another special understanding of what a country is, what a nation is? Or essentially, I see some conflict there which will have to be resolved. Either one then throws out the entire idea of a nation, and then I think maybe even constitution goes out with that idea, or one just redefines. One will have to redefine what a nation is. Constitution is.
Right. So yeah, the second question actually was somewhat addressed earlier. But the first one, I was wondering if I should go into it that time, then I thought I'd stick to the translation, interpretation. But yeah, when he says this family rooted, self-governing order is the alternate to authoritarian power-centric rule, he also elaborates, that is the answer to this question. Actually. He elaborates that this only simply translates to that the alternate to this power-centric rule is a resolution-centric behavioral governance. And so behavior, when he says vyavahar or behavior, what is implicit in it is just behavior. And so a resolution-centric behavioral model essentially means that it's a model of people like you and I, everyone, when we live together, we have no established, we have no rigid, there are no hierarchical systems and mechanisms of interaction. We are just, there's a behavioral way in which we interact with each other and in which is based on our need for justice, say that it is. It is based in our understanding of justice and our commitment to justice, and also rooted in our commitment to order and resolution. And when you start engaging in this humane way, it's a very, the word for it in Hindi that's striking me is atmiya. And it's very, no, atmiya is like very sociable, very easygoing, very heartfelt way. That is the fundamental meaning of family at the end of the day. So when he says this model is family rooted, it means it is rooted in a sort of behavior that one sees in a family system. Now, of course, the family is defined again, but at the crux of it, it means it is a governance based on such heartfelt, committed, resolution-rooted interaction. So say if we, the four of us, we're meeting every day and we want to figure out a system for ourselves, we'll just be open and transparent and caring and generous in a very heartfelt, familial way. And that is the nature of this alternate, instead of a hierarchical, bureaucratic sort of system of governance. So that is the alternate he's proposing. And then we'll go into why it is family rooted and what does family even mean. There is a particular definition. He says that today, what we see are an aspirations towards family. They're not really family. When we say it's a dysfunctional family, then it's not, it actually just means that it's not really a family. It's hoping to be. So we are families in our appearances, but not in our nature. So, a collection of people is not equal to family. So there will be a more clearer definition of what family is.
And nation.
And so then when we come to the question of nation, it's so this model that he's proposing is a 10-tiered system. It starts with the family, goes on to nation and then international. And all these tiers are essentially just collectives. So, there's a family collective, which is a group of people who have a certain commitment to each other. And then there's a society, he calls it gram, you give it any other word, that collective. And so, each tier is given a particular name, and one tier is the nation, with the name given to it is nation. Because there's a certain level, types of decisions that are taken at that collective level, sort of interaction that happens. And the nature of that nation is very different because it is integrated. Right now nations are not really integrated, but in this model, the nation is integrated within itself, and then it is also integrated in the international system.
It's a federation.
Essentially, it's a federal model, of which one tier is called family and another tier is called nation, and they're described. And so, a national constitution, he realized, he started out on this journey with the question of what should a constitution be? What should a national character be like? And when he realized that there is something called humane conduct in existence, then he realized, oh, this humane conduct is itself what I was seeking from a constitution. And so when you articulate, so the words, how he explained it was, when you articulate the principles of humane conduct, that itself is a constitution. And that, because it's universal and innate, is acceptable by all nations. So that national constitution is not particular to one nation. It is a universal national constitution. And so there can be alignment across nations.
Right. So essentially they're discovered principles.
Yeah.
And then everybody just with values.
Right. Understands them. And so he said that these principles are articulated in the form of principles in the constitution, and the very elaboration of such principles is what sociology is. Basically, these are the principles, and how do we, set up our whatever social systems and our social particular needs. And so the sociology is essentially just an elaboration of these natural principles. So that also explains what that is. That it's not particular, it's very universal and discovered.
Innate,
Yeah.
it's something, but then if it's something, if this is a system of innate principles, why call it something like a constitution?
He gives it several names actually. He also gives it a Manav Achar Samhita, which is a code of human conduct. Samhita is just a compilation of human conduct. So there are principles that gathered together.
It's a science essentially. It seems to me like it's some kind of discovery of pre-existing
principles of human
by
conduct.
I
So
mean,
he's divided into these three types of things that I discovered. One of the three is human principles of human conduct. And that itself, you could say it's a science. But essentially, it's just these principles are actually very basic. And when you open the constitution that is written, also you find it quite repetitive, seems quite repetitive because it's an elaboration of the very same thing in different avenues of our conduct and our national. So yeah, I think because he's used the word science for something else. Yeah. All right.
Tell me, Vishna, that suppose everybody becomes like what he is talking about, then we'll be quite similar to animals, no? Like we'll just be, there'll be just that, how can, and it just
Uniformity.
there'll be just so sameness. So everybody look the same,
Homogeneity.
everyone will feel the same, look the same, talk the same, think the same.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to raise actually. And he'll address it somewhere, but since you're bringing it up, it's when we actually this pertains to the nature of the Jeevan and what it is really. I'll just give you a sort of spoiler that it is something which is free and seeks order, and in seeking order, this free entity seeks to be completely free. So, freedom and order or diversity and homogeneity, you could put them on the two ends of a spectrum that are generally thought of. Essentially, the Jeevan is such an entity which combines both. It is both free. Its very nature is that it is free. We haven't, sorry. I was translating that with Parichay again now. Manovigyan. It will come up. How its very nature is that it is achieved the first kind of freedom that is possible in nature. And it wants to achieve the other two kinds of freedom. And it can only achieve those two kinds of freedoms when it understands the inherent order and existence.
What are these other two kinds?
So the freedom, that's okay. But even in animals, which are so orderly and all that, there is a pack leader and there's a monkey who's the stronger guy and he eats up all the bananas and the smaller ones don't come even. So all that is also there. No, there's that
So
greed,
greed
and profit and loss and everything.
Yeah.
And
that is one way of looking at their behavior.
Everybody can't be so free of desire of profit and loss. You can train yourself if you can.
See, first you mentioned animals. So animal bodies are also run by Jeevans. And I feel like getting ahead of, this is what he's going to be describing soon.
Okay, we'll wait.
Yeah.
No worries.
Just think your question of homogeneity at least will be answered in terms of the free nature of the Jeevan.
We'll wait.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, these are good. These are important questions.
I have a lot of questions, but I'm not asking because I know they may come up.
Just write them down though, so that you have them in front of you. And if they don't come up, then we can talk
हाँ,
about them.
ठीक है. Okay. Okay. Thank
Alright.
you.
Mhm.
No, no.
Okay. All right. Mummy, anything? All right, she's muted. I'm guessing she's doing other things while listening. All right, then we'll pause here. Oh, no, I did record. Sorry, I thought I forgot to record. Okay. See you tomorrow then. Bye.
Bye.